It is 2:47 in the afternoon. You sat down to send one email at 1 o'clock. The email is still open. You have not sent it. You are not sure where the last hour and 47 minutes went. And the worst part is, you genuinely cannot explain it to anyone, including yourself. If that sentence just landed somewhere specific in your chest, stay with us. Because what you just experienced has a name, it has a mechanism, and it is not a character flaw. It is called time blindness, and it is one of the most disabling and least talked about features of ADHD. Not just running late, not just being disorganized. A fundamentally different way of experiencing time itself, one that neurotypical advice was never designed to fix. In this video, we are going to do three things. We are going to explain what is actually happening in your brain when time disappears like that. We are going to show you exactly why the standard fixes, timers, planners, alarms, keep failing. And we are going to walk you through a specific, science-informed system that works with your neurology instead of against it. This is not hype. This is not a listicle. This is the video about time blindness that should have existed years ago. Most people experience time as a kind of ongoing background track, a constant low hum they are always loosely aware of. They know roughly how long they have been sitting somewhere. They sense when a deadline is getting close. The passage of minutes feels real and proportional. For people with ADHD, that background track is largely absent. Dr. Russell Barkley, one of the leading researchers on ADHD, describes this not as a problem with time management, but as a deficit in time perception itself. He calls ADHD fundamentally a disorder of self-regulation across time. What does that look like in practice? It looks like being genuinely shocked that 2 hours passed when it felt like 20 minutes. It looks like knowing a bill is due Friday and feeling no urgency about it until Friday morning, even though you thought about it every day. It looks like a project that is 4 weeks away, feeling exactly as distant as one that is 4 months away, because both are simply not now. Researchers refer to this as a collapsed future horizon. The ADHD brain tends to operate in 2 time zones only, now and not now. And not now has almost no texture or gradient. A deadline tomorrow and a deadline next month live in the same vague category until one of them suddenly becomes now, usually at the worst possible moment. Understanding this reframes so much. The panic, the last-minute scrambles, the missed appointments, these are not laziness. They are the predictable output of a brain that is genuinely not receiving the same time signals everyone else is. So, why does this happen? The short answer is dopamine. But the full answer is more specific and more interesting than that. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for executive functions, planning, prioritizing, regulating your own behavior, and crucially, tracking time intervals. It does this partly through dopamine signaling. Dopamine is not just the feel-good chemical. It is deeply involved in motivation, in the ability to project yourself forward mentally, and in how your brain assigns weight to future consequences. In ADHD brains, dopamine transmission is less efficient. The receptors are fewer in number, the reuptake is faster, and the signaling between key regions, particularly between the prefrontal cortex and the striatum, which helps encode the passage of time, is weaker. The result is a brain that struggles to feel the pull of future events. It is not that you do not care about the meeting tomorrow. It is that the neural signal connecting right now, this moment, to tomorrow, that consequence, is genuinely quieter than it is in a neurotypical brain. There is also a second mechanism at work, working memory. Time perception relies on holding a sense of the recent past in mind while projecting forward. ADHD significantly impairs working memory, which means the mental scaffolding you need to feel time passing is itself unstable. Add to this the fact that ADHD brains are much more likely to enter hyperfocus, a state of intense dopamine-driven absorption, and you get a perfect storm. Time disappears completely when something is engaging, and the future feels completely abstract when it is not. Here is where a lot of well-meaning productivity advice completely falls apart for ADHD brains. The most common suggestion you'll hear is set timers, use a planner, break tasks into smaller steps. And look, these tools are not useless, but they were designed by and for people whose internal time sense is already functioning. They are supplements to a working system. When your underlying time perception is impaired, these tools become crutches that do not reach the ground. Take the timer. You set a 25-minute timer, the classic Pomodoro method. The timer goes off. But if you have entered any degree of hyperfocus, the alarm is experienced as an interruption, not a signal. And if the task felt unengaging, you may have watched the timer more than you worked, a phenomenon researchers called time vigilance anxiety, where the ADHD brain becomes so focused on monitoring time that it cannot actually use it. Planners fail for a similar reason. A planner shows you that Thursday has a dentist appointment, but if Thursday lives in the not now zone, seeing it written down does not create urgency. It just creates a record of the thing you eventually forget anyway. And break it into smaller steps is genuinely good cognitive science, but it fails in practice because it does not address the now versus not now problem at all. Smaller steps are still steps in the future. What all of these approaches share is that they assume the ADHD brain needs more information. It does not. It needs a different relationship with time itself, one that makes the future feel present. What the research actually supports is a set of strategies that externalize time, meaning you pull the future into the physical present so your brain can see it, feel it, and respond to it. Here is a concrete system built from that principle. It has 3 parts. First, make time visible, not just scheduled. A clock on your phone tells you what time it is. That is not enough. You need an analog clock in your direct field of vision, ideally a large one with a sweeping second hand, because watching time move is neurologically different from reading a number. Time timer clocks, those visual countdown discs where a red wedge literally shrinks, have genuine research support for ADHD. Place one on your desk. When time is visible as a shrinking physical thing, your brain registers it differently. Second, convert future deadlines into present tense objects. If a report is due Friday, write on a sticky note, "The report is happening right now," and put it next to your keyboard. This sounds almost too simple, but the goal is to collapse the not now category. You are essentially tricking your prefrontal cortex into treating Friday like now. Pair this with a single daily anchor, not a full schedule, just one concrete sentence the night before. Tomorrow at 10, I am sending that email, and I am doing nothing else first. One commitment written in the present tense, placed somewhere physical. Third, use context, not willpower, to start. ADHD brains respond to environmental cues more than internal intention. Set up your workspace before you feel ready. Open the document before you sit down to work. Put the one item you need on your keyboard. Reduce the gap between intending and starting to 0. That gap is where time blindness lives. Here is something worth sitting with. Every strategy in that system has one thing in common. None of them ask you to feel time differently. They all change your environment so that your brain gets better information from the outside because the inside signal is unreliable. That is not a workaround. That is the intervention. This is how ADHD accommodation works when it works, not by forcing a neurotypical brain onto neurologically different hardware, but by redesigning the environment to match the brain you actually have. And here is what changes when you start applying this consistently. The shame starts to lift, slowly but genuinely, because when you understand that the reason you missed the deadline is not that you do not care or that you are broken, but that your dopamine-regulated time perception genuinely did not fire the warning signal in time, you stop being your own worst enemy. You start being your own architect instead. That does not mean it becomes easy. ADHD timeliness is a real impairment that can have real consequences, and managing it takes genuine, ongoing effort. Some days the system will fail. That is not a character judgment, it is a data point. The question to ask is not, what is wrong with me, but what did my environment fail to show me, and how do I fix that for tomorrow? You are not behind. You are not lazy. You are running a different operating system in a world built for another one, and you are learning to mod it. That is actually remarkable. If this helped you understand your brain a little better today, follow for daily ADHD content, because there is a lot more to cover, and none of it is about trying harder.